Summer of DeFi, RWAs, DePIN, and market trends going into summer 2025. So I'm here with my main man, Kade Garrett, who's a crypto expert. And Kade, what have you been up to the past few weeks or the past few months? We haven't talked in a while.
Yeah, I've been deep in the crypto and Web3 space. I'm still working at the crypto hedge fund CKC, and then um, as an advisor. And then my main gig is working at Onchain.org. I've been writing a lot of interesting newsletters and articles and working on some research reports. And we're doing a lot of cool on-chain stuff right now too. We do like an NFT membership and actually using the on-chain tools and things we talk about. And then yeah, just kind of writing about the space, researching the space, and on a personal level, just investing in the space a little bit. But as you know, I'm not like a crypto investing expert. I'm more of like a hodler. Got into it, quite a few years ago, and just hodling my crypto and watching it hopefully continue to go up towards the moon. You know how I do.
Definitely. I mean, I'm the same way. I don't believe in, I trade occasionally, swing trade, but when I see market trends shifting in a certain direction, which we'll talk about in a second, like XRP, I have to load up on that because of everything that's happening around that ecosystem, Ethereum as well. A lot of the big hedge funds are rotating money into that, in quotation that the stable token legislation will pass, and a lot of real world assets are going to be created on both XRP and Ethereum, and probably Solana as well. But before we get more into that, just give me a general idea of like, are we in an on-chain summer or a DeFi summer this year, or is this something completely different from what you're seeing?
Yeah, well, I mean, technically, a DeFi summer is an on-chain summer because it's on-chain. I would say one interesting trend I've been following and that I just recently wrote about was InfoFi, and that was actually one of the opening lines of my article. Is 2025 the InfoFi summer? So basically, the idea here is, information is power, Web3 knowledge is power, and can you monetize that? There's all these different projects like Kaido.ai and a bunch of other similar ones where they're monetizing attention instead of like sponsoring a celebrity or doing these social media influencer things. They're rewarding people who are delivering high quality content on X or these decentralized social media platforms. And I think it's really interesting. It's really cool, but also, there are ways to game it too. So there are pros and cons to it. Like, are you just, pumping out content to try and get some tokenized rewards, or do you actually believe in the project? So, like everything, there's incentives to everything, but InfoFi is a really interesting thing. I think I've been paying attention to this summer for sure.
Okay, so on that note, right? So X has basically beta testing their payment system as well for content creators on the platform, and there's talks of basically cryptocurrency being included in those wallets and paying content creators using crypto as well, and maybe even stable tokens. Do you see, is that a part of InfoFi?
Um, yeah, well, I mean, I think it can be. It doesn't necessarily have to be. Some of the earlier InfoFi projects, they're rewarding tokens or points. It's kind of unclear if those points or tokens will turn into actual crypto in some cases. Maybe it'll be something like Bitcoin or Ethereum. It could be stable coins. It could be their own native token. But yeah, the idea with InfoFi is that it actually has real value. You know what I mean? It should, so I think for a lot of people, especially in emerging economies, they want stable rewards. They don't want a random token that can go up and down
Or
200%
something in their or something necessarily in their local currency? Is that what you're saying? Like they might, like somebody in Dominican Republic where my parents are from, where the pesos, basically every day it's inflating more against the dollar. They might want to get rewarded in the U.S. stable token. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, I mean, in the DR or Latin America, just in general, what we're seeing is that like USD stablecoins are huge. As far as tokenized RWAs, maybe we'll get into this later, but it's USD stablecoins are just gigantic. I think it's like the market cap's around 250 billion. And if you listen to what there's two major players in centralized stablecoins, Tether and Circle. Circle recently relocated to New York City, but Tether's basically saying like, hey, we're not going to comply with the micro rules Our target demo is like the DR, it is Argentina, Venezuela, all these developing countries where there's inflation or hyperinflation. So people are using these stable coins. It's a huge market, something I've written about a lot. At Onchain, we recently released like a comprehensive stablecoin report. It's definitely worth checking out. But yeah, it's huge. I mean, do you want to use like a digital version of the dollar, or do you want to use a currency that's going to deflate? I'm sure you've seen, or your viewers have seen, like the pictures of people making purses and like figurines
Yeah,
out of Venezuelan currency because it's just worthless. You know what I mean?
definitely. So to go circle back to what you're saying, pun intended, right? Circle IPO'd, and we're obviously seeing that in Dubai, right? You wrote an article about this in Dubai. We're seeing that they're using basically fractionalizing real estate and different real world assets on the blockchain, specifically in XRP. Can you talk about your article that you wrote on this and like where do you see this going?
Yeah. I think I don't. Yeah, I think I wrote a newsletter about it. I don't know if it's an article, but I think you can find the newsletter on LinkedIn. I think we reposted there. But yeah, I mean, it's basically a big thing. So Dubai is doing a lot with crypto and real estate, and just crypto in general. Dubai, there's recently that a big $2 billion stablecoin deal, I think, with Binance and using Trump's stablecoin. But yeah, it's really cool. You can use crypto to invest in Dubai, which is a really hot market. Maybe it's overcooked these days, but there's so many interesting projects that are doing like tokenized real estate. One cool thing is like doing like fractional real estate. So, not everyone's a multimillionaire and multi-billionaire, but maybe you think there's a hot, giant apartment complex in Miami or New York or Chicago, Austin, one of these hotspots. You can actually tokenize it and like, just a regular person, that's maybe making 100 grand a year can get a piece of that real estate. I think that's really cool. And another kind of more far out there thing, I think the project's called Parcel. You can actually invest in real estate indices on the prices of a market, just the overall market. So you can, if you think the market in Miami is going to be hot, you can invest in it, or you can short it. So it's a really cool way to get exposure to something as a synthetic. But yeah, it's really cool. And yeah, if anyone wants to reach out to me on email or LinkedIn, I'll forward them the email. But a lot of cool stuff's happening with tokenized real estate for sure.
So we've been talking a lot about the regulatory space in the U.S. So you're seeing that this is happening in Dubai. This is happening probably in certain African countries as well. They're beginning to do it. El Salvador as well. Do you think that the U.S. will be able to, based on the law that we're getting through Congress right now, you think that we're going to see a lot more of this in the U.S. like in the near future? Or you think it's more like probably looking 2, 3, or 4 years down the line, like me being able to tokenize a building in Miami, for example?
Yeah, I mean, I think the U.S. is kind of a leader right now. The president of Onchain, Max Kordek, he wrote an interesting prediction article earlier this year about Trump and the golden era of crypto in the U.S. How we've got a lot of the great investors, a lot of the great talent here, and really the missing thing, or the big problem was, the regulators. People were worried about them coming after them, but now it looks like maybe the Genius Act is going to get passed. We've got a lot of pro crypto legislators there, and I haven't really announced it yet, but maybe is that I'm going to try and get involved too, and I'm going to be the Rhode Island head of Stand with Crypto. So I'm going to be on the front lines battling these anti-crypto politicians and really putting them on notice that, hey, if you're not pro crypto, you might get voted out of office. So I think that's the only thing missing is the regulatory framework. And I think Tom Emmer in Minnesota, Cynthia Loomis, and we're seeing a lot of bipartisan stuff. It's younger Republicans and younger Democrats and a lot of pro crypto people on both sides of the aisle trying to make crypto a thing in the U.S. And I think other places have a lot of great opportunities too. I think Dubai is getting up there. I've recently wrote about crypto regulations. I think it's a balance, but I'm kind of more like let the innovators innovate and like kind of keep the legislators out of the way, but maybe you do need just some safety rails and some guardrails when it comes to protecting, the little guy.
Definitely. And talking about South Crypto Rhode Island, Rhode Island recently just passed a piece of legislation that went through the Senate, and now it's hopefully working its way through the Assembly, or the state Senate specifically. And all the state Assembly, even though their session's kind of almost over, it might not get passed. But what do you think that means for Rhode Island? The fact that they were able to pass it unanimously through the state Senate, the bill to create a 5-person council to help craft crypto policy for the state of Rhode Island that they can introduce to the General Assembly and the state Senate.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's bullish. I mean, I think a few years ago that wouldn't happen. It would have never made it out of committee. It would have got rejected. It just would have, wouldn't even have got that far. So yeah, you can't, count your crypto before it's in your wallet. You can't count your eggs before they're hatched. But it's a good
Or you
sign.
can't screenshot. You can't just screenshot it and claim that you made tons of money unless you sell it, right? Until you realize the game.
You
Oh,
can't
go
you
ahead.
can't. Yeah, if you hodl those meme coins down to zero, even if you made millions, now they're zero. So
It happens, man. I've seen it time and time again. I've been guilty of it. I know a lot of people have been guilty of it. You made all this money, and they're like, "Hey, bull, it's gonna go forever." And that's how everybody learns in the crypto space. We all have to take a round trip, as we say. So specifically on DePIN, right? We've been hearing a lot about SoFi, this, that. The main narrative of the past year, I've been saying this since like midsummer last year, has been meme coin mania. Even now that pump fund is suspended and they got to clean up their act. It seems like people are still into meme coins, and we're finally starting to see signs of life for getting Ethereum XRP utility token season. But that's more like the tech stuff, right? Not necessarily specifically DePIN. What is your opinion on DePIN, and why hasn't DePIN really picked up yet as a narrative for mainstream? The mainstream people want to invest in projects like DePIN.
yeah, well, I think in some areas it's been big. In some areas it hasn't been. I mean, I think one of the early projects that's still around is like Helium. Decentralized IoT provider or even mobile, and they're kind of doing some cool things. I think one problem with some DePIN projects is that um, you know, Helium has great coverage in North America. It was really popular. Everyone's setting up their own, Helium nodes and trying to get some tokenized rewards. But like the US already has like 3 or 4 great cellular providers. It's like you need this DePIN project in Latin America or Dominican Republic where there's not as good a coverage. And so it's kind of a problem of incentives. Like you sometimes with the places where you need it most, they don't have the capital to invest in some of the DePIN hardware. But we are seeing that being solved. Like, there's low entry point, low cost ways to get into DePIN, like just using your computer or just using your phone. Some of my colleagues at Onchain have written about, just using your phone and testing sound levels, getting tokenized rewards, or there's a couple mapping projects where you can set up your phone in your car and you're kind of competing with Google Maps and you just drive around and it will give you tokenized rewards. And there's all kinds of cool things too. You can boost your rewards. Like if you have a Tesla, it's got those 5 or 6 cameras, you can get boosted rewards. So, people are probably already tracking you anyways. So why not drive around and get tokenized rewards as you're driving through New England or wherever you live, So I think it's really cool. I think it's a lot of people don't know about it. And partly too, sometimes, we talked earlier about stable rewards or using stable coins. Sometimes these projects reward you in their native crypto and it's volatile. So, you get some helium, but like, it goes up in value, and then a bunch of whales sell it, then it goes down in value. That's not fun if you're trying to actually earn. So I think a lot of DePIN projects might start incorporating like maybe more stable coins or like blue chip NFT projects. Like, hey, we're going to give you Bitcoin rewards every quarter, or Ethereum or stable coins, because you don't want to get rewards and then have the price drop on you.
I've actually heard that. I know there's a project in Rhode Island, Demo, which, let's be honest, in cryptocurrency, there's companies like, for example, I think it was AVAX or Solana, where everybody in 2020 was invested in AVAX. They were like, Solana's a stupid project and was going to invest in it, and all the VCs were wrong. But just because VCs invest in it doesn't mean it's going to succeed, right? Or lack of VC investment. So Demo is a project based on Rhode Island that again, that's what they're doing. They're having people drive around with a little apparatus or in a little phone, a little camera, and they can drive around and they can get paid for rewards. And I've gotten commercials for it, but again, it's not picking up steam the way I thought it would DePIN. Maybe that'll change, like you said. Maybe there's going to be like Helium, other projects where you can map it. They're going to basically say, okay, we're going to pay you in Bitcoin instead of our native token that's number 1,000 something and nobody's ever heard of.
Yeah. Demo was actually the one you reminded me. Demo is one of the ones I was thinking of. There's also one I think called Nadix Network that does like something similar. Yeah, I honestly didn't know they were based out of Rhode Island though. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, they're based out of Rhode Island. They're the founder is a son of one of the people that's based that I think it's Slater Mill Fund, the main VC, early stage VC investor in Rhode Island.
Mhm.
One of their founders, his son founded Demo. It's entrepreneurship in the family. You know how it is sometimes.
Very cool, yeah. And one cool thing about Demo and stuff, what's cool, but it's also your rewards are somewhat limited, is once they kind of map these roads. I mean, sometimes they might map based on like, oh, traffic or there's an accident, but like in general, once you map these roads, you get less rewards. But you can look on the map. I'm out in my crypto compound here, out in a secret rural location, but a lot of the roads here are unmapped, so I could just go on like a cruise and map some roads and get some demo because they're unmapped and uncharted. So it's kind of a win-win.
Yeah, I mean, but again, it just kind of sucks because like a lot of these, the way a lot of these projects get big is that like they introduce this great technology, and sometimes you think the market wants it, but like they rather buy Fartcoin instead, right? I mean, that has happened, right? Where like again, you have a demo founded 2 3 years ago. They're like, okay, this is our year, bull run year coming up, and then Fartcoin comes up in the map, and everybody invests in Fartcoin instead because hot air rises. So
Yeah,
based on
yeah.
that,
Yeah, I think one thing I'd like to follow up on there is because I'm kind of an idea guy, I'm kind of a conceptual guy, maybe a little bit of a dreamer, but some of my colleagues at Onchain, they're more like business focused. And one problem with a lot of projects or meme coins or anything is scaling. You start at the beginning, you're a startup, you're giving them the airdrop, you're giving them these huge rewards, but then at some point the project's going to run out of money. At some point the model has to be sustainable. You know what I mean? Maybe Demo or Nadix networks, they got all these big investments and they can give the early adopters bigger rewards, more money. But then if the money runs out, then the project kind of collapses. So for example, Demo, it needs to find a way to generate revenue so it can continue to pay the people that are driving around and mapping everything. So maybe Demo is going to sell it to towns or cities or states or the federal government, sell it to car companies.
because again, I was seeing commercials for Demo back in South Carolina when I was there last year on this time, and again, it still hasn't picked up steam. And what happened, from there to like when Trump got elected, Fartcoin popped onto the scene, and Fartcoin is the hardest thing in the market. I feel bad for it because Demo actually was able to raise $20 million, by the way, last year. That was the second. They did their first round, 10 million the year before, 2023, and they raised 10 million more. So raising money, even Coin Bureau, one of the biggest crypto channels in the world, right? If not the biggest crypto channel in the world on YouTube. They talked about Demo when they talked about DePIN, but they haven't made that was 10 months ago. They haven't made another video about DePIN in over almost a year now because again, they have to adapt to the market. And they've been talking a lot about meme coins and a lot of crypto policy in DC. That's what the focus of the channel has really been nowadays.
Yeah, well, I think it's just a it's not necessarily a problem, but whether it's crypto or AI or any sector, sometimes people are just chasing the next shiny thing, the next flashy thing. Yeah, and meme coins, very few. Most of them are a flash in the pan. They're here and they're gone, within a month, within a week, within a couple
Within
of days.
days. Most of them are gone within days.
Have turned into billion-dollar projects like Dogecoin or Shiba Inu, but those.
Fartcoin.
Yes.
I know you don't. I know you hate it, but again, it's tough because we live in a world where I was in a Twitter space yesterday, and this gentleman was saying, "Hey, I spent 3 years building a utility token. It went nowhere. I made basically all the money back investing in WIP in a few months. Like that. That's just the nature of the beast. That sometimes technology doesn't sell. My thesis specifically is technology doesn't sell. Marketing and partnerships do. And like a demo or these other companies, what they're trying to do is make it so that a good portion of the population, their TAM, right, population, that accessible market, they actually want to use this kind of product. And unfortunately, most people that would use the product are people that are new to crypto, right? Like I don't have a car and I'm in crypto. I'm not going to be using that product because I don't have a car. And you might not want to use it, but they want to talk to the people that are interested in crypto, and they're like, oh, I'm going to be driving around anyway. Uber drivers, I'm going to be driving around anyway. So why don't I just put this on here and make cryptocurrency, for my driving? But besides DePIN, like realistically speaking, when we're looking at retail for the next few months, right? We'd like to talk about Onchain Summer, DeFi Summer. There are two different things, right? Even though there are similar things in many ways, they overlap. What do you see of the narrative for this summer, like the next few months? Is it going to be ETF summer, for example? Because Solana is going to get an ETF pretty soon, then we might have more follow. Or do you think it's going to be something, or it's going to be meme coin mania again once like all the kids come out of high school for the summer break?
Yeah, as far as what's in store this summer, it's so hard to tell. But I mean, things change in crypto so fast. I mean, what I think now could change, by the 4th of July.
And keep in mind that summer begins June 22nd officially. I don't know. You should know
Okay,
that. A lot of people
all
don't know
right.
that.
So,
Go
so,
ahead.
so it's getting warmer here. I feel like it's summer already, but I guess it hasn't started yet. Yeah, I mean, I think people are always going to speculate on meme coins. It's kind of like buying a lottery ticket, but a better chance of cashing in. Yeah, I just think, especially we talked about it before with like the regulators getting on board. I think one narrative is tokenized real world assets, not just real estate, but stable coins,
Gold.
tokenized gold. Some projects have been around for a while. That's becoming big. I think the big ones there are Pax Gold and Tether Gold. I forgot what the ticker was, and even other tokenized commodities. They're very niche right now, but tokenized platinum, tokenized uranium, other tokenized commodities, tokenized treasuries. So those are really cool. I mean, that's how Tether's making, $10+ billion a year. Not tokenized treasuries, but they're backing their stablecoin with treasuries, and now things like BlackRock Biddle Fund and all these other tokenized treasury projects are becoming huge. I think another big narrative, and I think this is something where I think regulations quite haven't been sorted out in the US yet, is like yield bearing stable coins. Okay, you've got stable coins, you've got tokenized treasuries. Why not make it simple? Why not just build the yield into the stable coin? And you've got like some yield bearing stable coins that are starting to pick up steam. But I think that's huge too. Like, I mean, we're talking about earlier, let's circling back to Latin America and using USD stablecoins. What's better than having a USD stablecoin? How about a USD stablecoin that's earning 3, 4, 5% a year? Are you
They
going
have
to
that in
use?
Coinbase, don't they? Don't they have that in Coinbase? I mean, the token itself doesn't have it. I know what you mean, but is that what you mean that the token itself should have it just by holding it in your
Yeah,
private wallet
I
versus
think
staking
yeah.
it?
So yeah, I mean, there's different ways of doing it. So yeah, you can deposit into Coinbase, or you can deposit into a DeFi protocol and earn yield. But in this case, it's different. It's like built. It's like the yield is baked into the stable coin. So like, let's say you've got I don't know, $100 of USD stablecoin, and then you just keep it there in the wallet, and you look back a year later, it's $105. The yield is baked into it. So like this, you got to make sure it's backed and it's a legit stable coin. But that's really cool. You're not even depositing it into Coinbase or some DeFi protocol. You're just, the yield is baked.
Keeping it in your private wallet, right? And it's not staked anywhere. That's gonna be interesting because yeah, the regulations may have to catch up because the Genius Act, all that I'm aware of specifically is that it lets the regulators understand that any cryptocurrency, well, stable token project with a market cap over 10 billion is regulated at the federal level, and anyone under $10 billion is regulated at the state level where they're incorporated. But that's going to be interesting because we're obviously going to see these things evolve. The speed at which they're moving, remember, was slow at first, but now you have the Genius Act, Market Clarity Act coming in, and the Bitcoin bill probably later on in the year, early next year before the midterms, right? But yeah, I think that we're going to see a lot of that. Well,
Yeah,
how
yeah.
about
I mean, you're the policy guy. I gotta, brush up on
Well,
my
now you're
policy.
now you're the policy guy too, right? Because you're going to be the head of the Stand with Crypto Rhode Island, because
Yeah,
that's going to be you soon.
but I mean, I think it's bullish. I mean, just following up on that, I think a lot of the centralized exchanges in the U.S. had to drop staking because of the SEC and Gary Gensler going nuts. And
And in
now
New York, you can't stake at all. By the way, in New York, you can't stake at all
yeah,
legally.
but now, other than New York, you can basically stake anywhere of the centralized exchange. And if you're using your own self-custodial, non-custodial wallet, you could always stake your crypto. Just don't tell the politicians in New York. And or even we probably talked about this either online, either on air or off air before. But I use Nexo for a crypto collateralized loan, and it works great. And then the SEC went after them and they shut down in the US, and now they're back. So, I mean, that's bullish. I mean, staking's back. Nexo and other companies are coming back. The rules are getting better. And yeah, I mean, I'm rocking the Bitcoin t-shirt like always, one of many. And
I'm
yeah, I
rocking
mean,
the Stand with Crypto shirt later and the hat too in New York City. I have an event tonight for Stand with Crypto. We're going to be having the event for Rhode Island soon. Don't worry. Continue.
I'm thinking Stand with Crypto cruise in Newport, or maybe we'll go to a secret island somewhere. I've got a lot of ideas. I know you do too, but
Blockchain
let's make it
Island.
happen.
No, we're blockchain now. We're gonna don't worry. We're gonna do that event. We'll talk. We'll probably even go live. We've been going live a lot from like events like those as well nowadays. We had Big Sean at Stand with Crypto New Jersey a couple weeks ago. Crazy concert. But so like specifically with regards to again regulation, do you see an ETF somewhere like if Solana gets the ETF like as expected to get by July 31st? Do you see like a floodgate of ETFs and then basically just the price of ETF Solana ETF for example just going from like where it is 180 to like 500 or 600 just based on an ETF? And also keep in mind the Solana ETF specifically will include staking as well, unlike the Ethereum ETFs.
Yeah, I think whether it's Solana or Ethereum, anything, building staking into the ETF is a game changer. Um, you know, I'm not the price prediction expert, but I think some people think once this is announced, people will front run it and buy before the ETF gets announced, like the price is baked in. Other people think it's very bullish. I hope it goes up because I've got a good Solana position myself. But yeah, I think it's only good for crypto if we have ETFs. I mean, someone like me, I'm never going to buy an ETF. I'm just gonna,
Me either.
I'm just gonna have it on, my self
The
custodial
actual
wallet, my
product.
centralized
The
exchange.
actual product. Makes
Yeah,
sense. Go ahead.
I'm not the crypto ETF guy, but I think just having more options for people is bullish. Maybe it's older people or TradFi people. They want an ETF. They don't like for whatever reasons for their company policy or rules. They want exposure. ETF is what works for them. Yeah, and I think honestly, I think as long as the market demand is there, they should have ETFs for all the big cap things. Solana, ADA, like literally anything in the top 50 or top 100. Why not give stable coins excluded? Just have ETFs for everything. Have ETF
I mean,
baskets.
yeah. They even have they have an ETF for Dogecoin right application. We thought that was going to happen next year. I was predicting, hey, we're going to have like 2 or 3 ETF applications this year, and next year we're going to start seeing the meme coins. But they've already started. I believe they even have a Pepe ETF application in there. And what's the other one called? Well, not is it WIF or is it no? It's the other one, Bonk. They have a Bonk ETF application in.
Yeah, I mean
And
that's
and,
what
and Kathy
I
wasn't
know.
there. Kathy said that they are going to get accepted, but do you really see BlackRock, for example, like going to its customers, like, well, you have Bitcoin, but you have the Bonk ETF as well that we can provide to our clients. As you can see, the market cap is only a tenth of Bitcoin's, if not, a hundredth of Bitcoin, so it has a higher probability of going up in value. You really see that, like professional investors buying Bonk ETFs.
I don't know where I heard it. Maybe it was Pump's podcast that a big VC made a lot of money buying. I think it was Bonk. It was some meme coin. They bought a huge allocation. They did really well with it. I mean, honestly, if they see an opportunity to make money, doesn't matter what it is, they're going to take it. If they thought they'd make money buying a Fartcoin ETF, they'd do it. So I think it's all about risk reward, asymmetric upside, portfolio diversification. If they see an opportunity and they're bullish on it, they're going to do it. I mean, this is one of my favorite and least favorite topics at the same time. All these crypto haters are now bullish on it, and people who said Bitcoin was rat poison or going to zero or do whatever are now saying it's the next greatest thing, and now they're gonna put it on their balance sheet and release a Bitcoin ETF. So,
the governments are doing this, the companies are buying this. It's kind of like, listen, man, at some point your customers are going to leave you if you're not going to adapt, and they're going to go somewhere else where they will care about maximizing profits, not just the fact that you personally take crypto. But
it's like we don't have to say about anything, any person in particular, but I mean, geez, just look at just total market cap of anything. Bitcoin is like, last time I checked, it was like 10, 11, 12 in the world. It's somewhere around like Apple or whatever. It's like Bitcoin's $1 trillion asset class. It's not tulips. It's not going to zero like Peter Schiff says. I mean, I don't know what these people are smoking or what they're drinking, but they need to get examined. They need to get their heads checked because it's not going anywhere.
Bitcoin, but just like 2%, if you would have put 2% of most financial companies' treasuries into Bitcoin in the bear market 2 years ago, it'd make up like 30-40% of your portfolio right now, based on how much has gone up from $15,000 to like over 110 at one point. But this last
They're doing something else. We talk about different ETFs. Some companies are doing like putting a lot of their balance sheet on Ethereum. I think there's one that's doing Solana. So like we've got, yeah. So it's not just Bitcoin anymore. And like, for me, I'm a big portfolio diversification guy. Like, why not? Why shouldn't a company do 2% Bitcoin, maybe 1% ETH and Solana, maybe 1% something else? Like, why not? Why would you limit yourself to one?
$10 Ethereum, 5% XRP, and then 5% to play with some of them smaller caps, maybe higher risk plays like Sui, etc. But the last thing I wanted to ask you, just we have been talking about, like, not necessarily you specifically, but I've been talking about cryptocurrency market cap ever since it broke the $3 trillion threshold back in November, December. That we're going to go to $5 trillion at any given day now, and we haven't really gotten there, right? People are saying crazy things like Bitcoin's going to go to 250K. I talked to Charles Hobson in the space. He was sure of it 2 months ago, and I'm like, listen, we have to at least break $4 trillion, $5 trillion soon if we're going to get to $10 trillion by the end of the year. Where do you see the market cap? This is general explanation. Maybe you don't know, but where could you see the market? Do you see the market cap dropping, staying the same, or going higher before August 31st, or let's say September 1st, 2025?
Time. I think the highest it's ever been is a little over. Yeah. So it's never even broke four yet. So I would be surprised. That's a lot of capital. I mean, have to be a lot of Wall Street getting involved and a lot of other global markets. I think a lot of retail. I mean, is already in crypto. I mean, there's a good chunk of the American population that's already in crypto. It's
In private wallets. And a good amount too. Let's be honest. We have a lot of people that own like $100 that or $10. They bought $10 of Dogecoin a few years ago, and that counts as like a crypto wallet.
that was November of last year. Yeah, I don't know if it's a bit of summer, but I wouldn't be surprised if it goes above 4 trillion by the end of the year. It got pretty close before, but the thing is, there's so many.
The crypto market to hit 10 trillion by the end of the year, and you're saying that you won't that we should. And remember, Brad Garlinghouse, Ripple XRP, said last year that we were going to hit $5 trillion market cap by the end of December 2024. And you're saying we're not, we might barely hit 4 trillion by the end of this year.
But yeah, I mean, people also said Bitcoin would be 1 million 5 years ago or whatever. You know, it's like it's hard, it's so hard to predict, and also there's so many other variables. You know, you've got the you got a couple wars possibly going happening right now, or escalating or de-escalating. You've got like a global trade war. You've got tariffs. You've got all these macroeconomic factors, like what are they going to do with the interest rate? Is the crypto market correlated with traditional asset classes? Is it becoming uncorrelated again? There's so many different variables. I mean, I'm bullish, but you just don't know. I mean, if you ever go back, and I'm looking at the chart right now off screen, you saw before in 2021 and 2022, there are these big bumps up over 2.5 trillion and then up over 3 trillion. And then if you look, it's literally like a 2-year bear market. I mean, I don't think we're going for a 2-year bear market, but if it blows up to 4, 5, 6 trillion, a lot of people are going to be taking profits, and it could be another bear market. I mean, maybe there's going to be less of a situation.
Selling it, right? They're keeping it locked up for lockup period for 10, 15, 20 years. So it's going to be different. Michael Saylor's not selling, for example. There's certain organizations, retail is going to sell, but like there's certain organizations that I don't think they're not planning on selling. They're going to keep, buying and buying and buying, locking it up forever.
Be hodling it forever. So that's going to be a decent price support. But yeah, I mean, I think Bitcoin is still dominant. It's a little over half the market, but I would say for the other cryptos, not so much. So it really depends on what crypto you're talking about.
Year, I'd say, or some people say third year. I say second year. I think 2024 was basically a bullish year. I think that we might see something like, of like till 2027, 2028. Bitcoin just keeps going up. Not as much as it used to. It's not going to go up 30, 40, 50% like in a day, but it's going to continue going up. Me personally, up, a little dip, up, a little dip. And then, we're probably going to hit $1 million based on the fact that we're going to have like at least 30 states having Bitcoin strategic reserves, and probably half of the countries in the in the world is probably going to have them as well. But with that being said, I know you have to get back to Jacqueline. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
When I got into the market, I'm looking at the price right now. I don't want to say exactly when I got in or what I did or what I didn't do, but when I was in the yeah, but when I got into the market, it was less than. Let me make sure I'm getting this right. I almost don't believe it now. I'm looking at the numbers, but when I got into the market, it was less than a $10 billion market cap, and now for the whole market, if once you I mean, and you don't even have to go back that far. I mean, if you go back to 2019, it was just 100 billion. But yeah, if you go back earlier, before like the boom in like 2018, yeah, it's just flat. Obviously it was flat for the very early years from 2009 to whenever. But yeah, when I got into the market, it was tiny. So when you look at that perspective of being in it 7, 8, 9, 10 years, you've done pretty well. And still, people, like you said, it might just be the beginning. So I think a lot of it's perspective too. You can call me Crypto Nostradamus.
Towards then onwards.